Hey there, it's CJ. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's a bit of Shreveport outside my window. We're across the Red River from beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana. And yeah, so I'm just passing some time here. I'm kind of like the reverse of a mogwai. Like a mogwai, you don't feed after midnight, otherwise it'll turn into a monster. And so what I have to do is I have to wait until after midnight to eat once I reach my calorie count or my carb count or whatever. And so, yeah, we had Sunday. I made a roast and it was good. My sister came over, but I have some leftovers, potatoes and rice and things like that. And I've even got some leftover roast. I just didn't want leftover roast the exact same, you know, day or whatever. I mean, I don't mind leftovers. I wait a day or so in between. I rotate out, you know. Uh, so I have some leftover roast, but I ate like a bit of leftover chicken for lunch, just like half of a smoked chicken that I had, uh, and maybe a quarter of a cup of rice, uh, to a half a cup of rice, whatever. Uh, but brown rice and everything. And so that's what I ate today. And I was like, that's it, nothing else. And then maybe I ate like a handful of almonds. And so right now I have in the square skillet, I have about five bone-in pork chops, kind of medium cut. They're not really thick, but they're just assorted cuts. Which you go to the store and you would get like the assorted cut of pork chops, and they're a little bit uh, less expensive because they're uh, not necessarily all like uniform, but yeah. But these look pretty good. So anyway, um, what's in the pan is a bunch of probably about a stick and a half. The equivalent of a stick and a half is actually from a block. Uh, so I should say, yeah, uh, of unsalted butter melting in, and then I put uh, the chops in, and then I put in some peeled cloves of garlic and some basil, some chive, and assorted green herbs. Nothing salacious. And then I took some almonds and I put some almonds in there also. And the reason why, and what you could do with this, uh, if you want to, for something like that, a butter sauce, you could actually pour a little bit of wine, but you want to make sure to or sherry or something like that, but you want to make sure that that does not touch the flame, because it will catch fire and you'll have a flambe in your kitchen, and that would probably set off most smoke detectors at home. I don't drink, so I don't use uh, alcohol at home. Like if I'm at a restaurant or something and there's like a wine in the sauce or something like that, I really don't freak out over it or anything like that. And I'll go ahead and indulge in it, uh, because typically most of the alcohol would cook out, and what's left would not be uh, more than what's in other trace foods. The alcohol content. So that's fine. So as long as it cooks out, I don't really like. I wouldn't want to have like a tiramisu that's like soaked in Bailey's or something like that. So whenever I have a tiramisu, I always make sure, hey, is this an alcohol-free tiramisu or something like that? But you know, and it just it depends. Anyway, yeah. But I'm not like obsessive over that. Uh, um, but yeah, that's something that you can do with the butter sauce, is add a little bit of white wine, and sizzle that up or whatever. But I got inspired to put the nuts, these nuts, the almonds in in the butter, because I actually was reading, uh, and I read it when it first came out. Uh, the book Hannibal, that from that It was a sequel to Silence of the Lambs, which was also the sequel to Red Dragon, and it was like the Hannibal Lecter franchise or whatever. And at one point, he's like uh, preparing a meal, and Clarice is at the table and everything. And the book is very different than it ends very differently than the movie. Like in the movie, she's a hero. In the book, she's just kind of like uh, where she becomes folk hero basically because she ends up shacking up with Hannibal. If you haven't read the book, so she's not like a heroine at the end of the book. She actually, it's very anti-feminine ending if you think about it, because she ends up, uh, you know, yeah, he gets his woman, she gets her man. They do end up falling in love. Anyway, um, it's a good read. But I love how he described the butter. He described putting peanuts in a pan and sautéing the peanuts in the butter, and he described it and how it smelled and everything. Was like, ever since then, if I have like some whole nuts or something like that, I kind of do uh, once in a while do something. I prefer almonds because almondine. I love the way it sounds when you say that or whatever. You put almonds on a lot of things. Chop up some almonds in a chicken salad. It's really great. But anyway, I'm very much into food. What else am I talking about? Oh, I want to talk about, this is kind of cool. Um, we talk about algorithms, what we now call AI, but uh, that's nothing but algorithms, and when you uh, that's all that it is. And then like if you have an AI that talks back or something like that, it's just it's an algorithmic response. It's not actually like thinking. It's like uh, based on context and short memory of what's in the context of what the user is saying. The algorithm develops a set of responses that it could pick from, depending upon the context of what's come before, uh, just recently before, and any sort of patterns or anything like that. I used to get on with that, like, oh my god, they're like trying to influence us and everything, and of course, that, yeah, that happens on social media. But I want to tell you something. It's happened to me my entire life. Ever since I have been a little kid, sat down in front of a TV, media has tried to influence me. And ever since I've been a little kid going to school, kindergarten all the way through, I have been influenced. In some ways, I'm very happy. I'm a patriot to my country, the United States. And as imperfect as it has been and still is, I still think that I experience more freedoms here than I would in a lot of other places. I don't necessarily think it's the freest country anymore, but I do love it. And we've made great strides in a lot of areas that were a hindrance to me. Uh, Whatever, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I guess what we're talking about. But yeah, I've been influenced. Let me talk about that. I've been influenced since a little kid. Uh, People telling me, "Hey, this is what we believe," and that's fine for family. And but when I'm in history class in like elementary school, middle school, getting into high school, um, it was never just about history. It was about solidarity and belief in your country, and there was a lot of history, but there was a lot of propaganda with it, and a lot of the history classes were taught by um, you know former service men, and they would tell us war stories and stuff. It's like, you know, it's like I don't know. There was a lot of propaganda, and I'm from Louisiana, so you know the propaganda that goes on. I don't necessarily disagree with a lot of it, but is it that I don't disagree with it because I've been taught that most of my formative years? Well, I happen to think that I'm a person who has a strong mind and a strong will. I'm a gay man who was raised in the 70s and 80s, and I came of age in the late 1980s and early 90s, whatever. You know, I uh, I may have ticked over the legal mark. It may have been 1990. Anyway, I don't know, but what I can tell you is that I'm a very strong-willed person, and I rebutted against a lot of things. Rebutted against a lot of things. You know, that were typical of some spiritual beliefs in the way that in the tradition that I was raised. Now, I actually uh, left my church when I was 12 years old. I left my church when I was 12 years old to seek out a broader understanding to some questions that I had, to some fundamental issues, the things that were put down to us fundamentally. These are your fundamentals. These are your basics. And uh, well, you know, like, and don't ask questions. You know, that was a lot of, we weren't allowed to ask questions, and I had questions. You know, so not being allowed to ask questions to my spiritual leaders uh, caused a kind of a shake in faith, not in God, as I have come to know and understand God. I just figured that there was more to. Uh, I just figured there was more to what was going on than what I was being told at 12 years old. You know, and I don't know. So when I try now, and then later on, I kind of got into like you know, Facebook, or like from the moment they had like Facebook and like the earliest apps of Facebook on social media on phones where you could just post before you could do videos. Even it was like that's how far back my Facebook account went, uh, and almost all of it involved like some sort of political, you know, people telling people how they're supposed to live and this and this and this. And I just, I don't, I don't know what it's like now because I've been off of it for a few years. But I just decided, you know, a lot of what I do is this. It's visual versus just. It's more than I can just. I can't just like type some stuff and then expect to be understood clearly. I want my voice to be heard and understood. If I broach those topics, and I don't do it too much on my channel, I don't think, just in a very roundabout way, you know. But because I don't want the fact that I'm a moderate, leaning to uh, a liberal who votes typically Democrat. I don't want that to separate me from someone who votes Republican or votes independently for one of the parties or anything like that. I don't want that to be reason to make enemies with people. And that's what was happening before. And I was getting so impassioned by it, and then I was getting so uh, incensed by somebody else's passion. And then I realized, you know what? Most of these people are not voting who I'm doing these arguments with. Now I think it's just really important to go out and vote. If you can, uh, go out and vote when it's time to vote. And the reason why is because if we're in a country where you know our republic is kind of like we delegate to our people how they're supposed to vote, like we have our districts, and we tell our districts uh, the majority of our vote determines how our district representative will vote, and so on, up until Congress, then then in order to get the truest answer of what the American people want, we just have to vote. We have to stop the arguing, and we have to vote. And and I don't think it matters who you vote for, as long as you vote. You know, if you have the ability to express opinion and view, then register to vote. And if you're like me, at one point, uh, I couldn't vote because I'd gotten into some legal skirmishes way back in the day, and I had to. What it is once you in Louisiana, I have to because that's where what I do is I complete my servitude, my whatever it is that I have to do to get back into good standing with my state legally, and then you know you get your rights back after a couple of years. It was 2 years after I completed uh, uh, my stuff. So. And it doesn't really matter what it was that I got in trouble for, because it was stupid. It was just stupid, idiotic stuff, and one thing led to another, and one idiotic thing led to another idiotic thing. And if you've ever been young and stupid, you'll understand. If you've always been smart, then maybe you won't understand, but people fuck up sometimes. So uh, I no longer have guilt or regret or anything about those times, because that was way water under the bridge, and it's just a part of my past. It's not the things. It's those aren't the things that I do today. Yeah, really, they weren't the things that I did then. They were just not out of any maliciousness. It was just out of stupidity. Like a young man, his mind typically doesn't even like fully develop. You know. Until he's in his mid 20s. This stuff happened way before then. So anyway, enough of the excuses. It was what it was. It is now what it is. And I do have the ability to vote, and I do go vote. And if you don't vote, then you run the risk of people like me determining what's going to happen to your country. And maybe you agree with my moderate to the liberal leaning uh, trend that I vote, and then maybe you don't. And if you don't, go out and vote. Uh, don't let me be the one to speak for you at the voting booth. Speak for yourself at the voting booth, without any sort of agenda whatsoever. Uh, vote with your conscience. Most people vote with what I like to call their financial conscience. You vote with what's better for your pocketbook, and then some other things may get weighed in, but most people, vote about money. Okay, so trends. So I was talking about being influenced. Yeah, I've been influenced most of my life, and like now I don't really mind it so much. Like if I type in like something that I'm browsing to shop for, these the, I realize how easy it is. Like, say I want to get some maracas, some instruments, musical instruments, maybe, uh, and I just like search for maracas, and then like for the next month and a half, I get shown pictures of maracas until I find one that I'm interested in buying, or until I've ended up searching for other things so much so that maracas kind of like fades out of my algorithm patterns or whatever that whatever. People have always done this. When you think back in the 60s, 70s, Nielsen ratings, people who produced TV before the internet, people who produced TV shows, and people who made movies and movie studios and everything, they also sold things, product placement, goods in America. Programming is how uh, they advertise in movies and in newsreels, even before there was TV, and on radio and everything like that. So they have to do market research, and then the response of what sells, that's what we get, you know. uh, and then we'll get some new ideas to maybe fill some needs as things get innovated, and that's really all they're doing as far as marketing goes. Now there is a media, you know, out there, that newspapers and uh, news bits and stuff like that. And the fact is, they have stories to tell, and uh, they try to, you know, they have an obligation to be as honest as they can, and a lot of them aren't. A lot of them aren't even like legitimate sources that I see. Uh, like I can look at a headline, and it has nothing to do with the article, and then the article has nothing to do with any sort of factual thing. It's all opinion or whatever. Especially when it gets into like celebrity gossip, that kind of stuff or whatever. First thing that comes up in uh, uh, your browser is usually a bunch of BS. What's trending is usually a bunch of BS. You usually have to go to a legitimate news source that you know of if you're going to read an article that has any sort of substance, and you want to get some facts, and you don't want to be led too much by opinion. They all put a little bit of opinion into it, but you know. But the fact is that news outlets, they also are a product that needs to be sold to um, sponsors, and those sponsors need our attention. So you know, there's always that to consider, and that's always going to be the case because even now, I'm prepping you because one of these days I may have something that I want to sell. Maybe I want to sell a painting or something like that. So maybe I want to sell my personality so that you'll like me, so that you'll be a little bit softer on your critique if I do a painting or something like that. You know. So I mean, anybody who talks to somebody else is representing and posturing just a little bit. You know. Uh, doesn't mean that in our hearts our love is not sincere. And I'm sincere when I say to you, love and light, peace. Good night.